If you are a technical expert, then you have probably heard about the power of storytelling. And maybe you've thought, storytelling, schmorytelling, give me the details, give me the facts. I don't need all this fluff of airy, fairy, fluffy storytelling. And let me tell you, you're probably paying for it. Because here's the reality. We remember things in narratives. That's how we think. That's how our brain is simply structured. And narratives are emotional. Whether we like it or not, we are such emotional beings, and stories tend to convey more emotion than just information. Now, what I'll add to that is, as a technical expert, as an expert in your field, you may get the emotional high just from the facts. And that's what differentiates you as the expert from your audience who doesn't care about the facts in and of themselves. And so, whereas you already have that motivation, your audience doesn't. And so, what you can do in order to link the information you want to give them to whatever transformation it should bring is use a story. The story is going to bridge the gap between the information, which to you is just exciting on its own, to something you want to convey to your audience. And in order for them to care about it, there are few things that are as effective as a story. And so in this video, I'm going to give you 3 elements that you need to use in order to increase your ability to tell stories when you are giving a report, when you're giving an answer, when you are in a job interview. All of these will elevate how you come across and what your audience leaves with. So number 1 is to develop the knack of noticing. This is something I speak about in my book, The Young Leader's Guide to Public Speaking. And in the chapter, Captivating Content, I speak about this. Develop the knack of noticing. You want to notice anything which is particularly anything. What I mean by that is, if you have a moment that is particularly boring, particularly interesting, particularly complex, particularly exciting, particularly sad, whatever it is, if it moves you, write it down. If it is out of the ordinary, write it down. Because it is in those moments that you will be able to draw the audience's attention to something. Even if you don't know how you are going to use it in that moment, write it down because it is something that has moved you. You have noticed, oh, this is out of the ordinary, and maybe I'll be able to use it later. So the first is to develop the knack of noticing. There are stories everywhere, but so many people feel, I just don't have stories to tell. Really, it's not a question of having stories to tell. It's a question of having developed the knack of noticing them. So once you start, then you are suddenly going to see stories everywhere. Some are going to be your own. Some are going to be ones that are told to you. Some are going to be ones you observe happening to people in your life. And each of those you will think, that could be something I could use. That's number 1, develop the knack of noticing. Number 2 then is to document them. It is so tempting to think that a story you experienced or that you thought about earlier is just going to sit in your brain long enough for you to write it down 3 days later. But the truth is, as you probably know, we forget these things pretty quickly. The details that make the story come alive. We may remember it generally, vaguely, but if something really marks you, write down as much as possible in that moment. That way, when the moment is gone and you barely even remember what you're talking about, the details will bring it back to the forefront of your mind. So document them as soon as possible. Have a note in your phone or a tiny little notepad that you can jot that down on and come back to later. Number 2. So number 1, develop the knack of noticing. Number 2, document as soon as possible. And number 3 is extract the lesson, not just the example. So you might think, okay, well, let's say I am a software engineer and I have an example of someone who used a browser in a way that was not according to company policy, something like that. You have that example and you think, okay, let me document that so that I can use that as an example for my next presentation or my next report that I'm giving. That's one part of things. And yes, you can use examples and that story can be used. However, what you also want to do is document stories that have nothing to do with the role or have to do with the role, but you have extracted a lesson out of it that you can apply to something else. This is one of the brilliant powers of storytelling. It's not just about that instance in and of itself, so that you are giving an example where the audience thinks only about that instance. It's about having a lesson, a theme that you can apply pretty much anywhere. So, for example, let's say you wanted to use an example of someone using a browser the wrong way and that having an adverse effect on the whole IT system. Well, you can use it just in that way, or you can extract a lesson such as if you're in doubt, ask. If you're in doubt, ask can be applied to pretty much any area in life, but you use that story as a launch pad for the point you want to make about something entirely different. The point is that it is so versatile that you're not stuck in just that example. You can use stories from your personal life as long as you've extracted a theme that can then be applied to the professional setting. And that will be appreciated by your audience. They won't think it's strange as long as that message is there and applicable to what you are talking about. The issue is not the storytelling that makes it unprofessional and fluffy and blurry. The issue is how well you are able to link it to the topic at hand. And if you get really good at that, people will immediately say, wow, you make reports come to life. You make them engaging. You make people want to listen in. Why? Because you have developed the art of taking that story and applying it to something that the audience can use in their everyday professional life. And so, in light of that, I'm going to share a story with you. I recently did a workshop, and someone who came, who's a senior professional in a big company, spoke about the birth of her first son and how nerve wracking that was and what that felt like. And she was using that as a launch pad for change. She was talking about change in the company to a whole team. And she used that story of the birth of her son going from not being a mother to being a mother and how that changed her life. And, well, this change that the company was going through goes with uncertainty, it goes with doubt. And that theme was clear. It wasn't oversharing. It wasn't, oh, keep your personal life to yourself. In fact, it gave a human, relatable element to something everyone in the company was feeling, which was the effect of change. You can do the same. Take something that you have lived and then apply it to something in the work setting that the audience can relate to. And so if you find that people are just not retaining what you say, it may not be because of the content. It may simply be that you need to give them something so that they can latch information to transformation through a story. And if you want to know how to do that, then join the technical executive in the link below, where we are looking at how you can elevate your influence so that it matches the expertise that you already have. I will see you in there.